Invisible Walls, a podcast all about breakthrough. And if you're watching us in video form, you saw that Thanos snap effect. We want to do that same thing to all the problems in your life. We want to help you grow. We want to help you prosper. We want to help you achieve the winner's mindset in the shortest period of time possible.
And to do that, much like being in an airplane, we got to help ourselves first, put our oxygen mask, and then we can help you after. And so a lot of it is, kind of bringing on professionals or experts in their fields, areas of interest that we like to improve upon ourselves, and sharing with you guys. But also looking at topics, internet trends, or culture to kind of shape, our own future as well.
And I think that a great way to look at how this podcast is going to exist in the long term is we will have topics that we want to dissect, but there's also going to be a bit of like diary because we are still on our own process towards excellence. And we can share updates because especially if there's little tips or anecdotes that we pulled from like, hey, here was my experience training for a half marathon. This will help anybody who's considering it, I actually look forward to seeing us on this podcast 5-10 years from now.
Yes.
Like, hey, how I made my $8 million deal.
Yes. But it is true. Like I have children of my own. I'm a family man. And this is the closest thing of a diary I'll ever have. Like they will be able to, if they don't care about it, my grandchildren will at least know a little bit about Grandpa
Brandon.
Oh my God. And be able to kind of see realistically how I am, and kind of see where their defects come from, I guess. But it's great. It is kind of narcissistic, of course. I mean, that's why you have children, right? To kind of see your own reflection in them. But obviously to hopefully them becoming better people and you providing better opportunities, right? And so Invisible Walls to me means how do I improve myself? Because these looks aren't going to last, right? But I always compare myself to myself, right? Okay. I am at least confident enough to not always compare myself to others, which is, I think, in this internet age is hard to do with social networking being as it is. You're constantly comparing to the best days of everybody else's, right? Because that's what you really do see. But I want to be able to walk, and if there is some kind of time travel machine later, my 20-year-old self, and I meet him, I don't want to look at that guy. It's like, man, I had it good.
I fucked up.
I want the 20-year-old guy to be like, holy shit, yes, look at me. If not by looks, obviously the physicality will be gone. I won't be as strong. But at least in their mind, emotionally, in wisdom, anything else besides physicality, I can definitely improve on.
Well, all right, let's run with that for a second. Brandon, if 40-year-old Brandon Pham, right, if things work out the way that you hope, if 40-year-old Brandon Pham came into this room today and was like, Brandon, this is what you should do, and this is what one thing that like you should change about you right now because it's going to be beneficial for you when you're my age. Right. Like if you knew, like, what is that one thing that you think is your biggest breakthrough?
That person will tell me. All right. The cool thing is that I will look at the 40-year-old self, of course, because I have a frame of thinking that says that by 40 years old, I should be at this place. And if I just stay consistent, I will get there. And I think that's the key thing that person will tell me at 40 years old is like, just stay consistent, man. Wake up, do it of quality and put it out there, which is I feel like we've been doing the last 3 weeks now. Right. So let's kind of give like a lot of the podcast listeners and anybody that hasn't found us through other shows a little bit of our background, right? Because I think a lot of people are walking into this. This is the 4th episode and they've heard us kind of bring on guests and talk about Theranos and have a little bit of our personality kind of brought onto them. But they have no idea where our background is. We've only been hinting that we're from the game industry. So let's kind of go into that.
All right. Well, I can start really quickly. I'm from the East Coast. Larry Charles, 34 years old, African-American male. Grew up mainly in Hartford, Connecticut, and I would say spent some time in upstate New York. But the primary, I would say, growth years for who I became as a person was probably handled in Pennsylvania. Always loved video games the whole time. Flew out to Orange County, California to learn how to make video games. And that was after taking 2-year swing at Penn State to think about going into business, realizing I'm more entrepreneurial and less, regional manager of West Coast logistics
Yeah.
for XYZ Fortune 500 company.
No.
And so came out here and learned how to make video games, and that's where I met Brandon.
Exactly.
Brandon, what's your Cliff Notes?
My Cliff Notes is pretty.
How you got to your start?
I didn't start in Connecticut. I started right here in Orange County.
Yeah.
I didn't really move that far, to be honest. And we'll kind of go into that a little bit, what we want to turn this podcast into, or the show into. So I was born and raised in the Philippines, actually, but I'm Vietnamese. But my mom and parents were part of that refugee.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, see, you're learning a lot of things.
I didn't know that.
I'm more Filipino than most Filipino that you know.
I didn't know you were born in the Philippines.
I was born in the Philippines, and
oh snap!
yes, I actually, my Brandon family is not my real name.
No, I know that. I know that. Yeah, come on.
Yeah,
I know that. I
Good.
just didn't know you were born in the Philippines.
Good. So my middle name before used to be Hong. My full name before was Tan Hong Bui. My Bui surname was my father's name, which my parents separated. That's why I took my mom's name. Hong was because they were conceiving me in Hong Kong. And so I was conceived in Hong Kong. Well, being conceived in Hong Kong. I know. Those are little details my mom told me. I'm like, why are you telling me all this? I don't want to see you guys doing it in Hong Kong and having me in the Philippines. But that's where my name was, right?
Yeah.
And that's the cool thing about Asian name. It has a lot of meaning.
Yeah.
And so I was really young, obviously, when I went to the United States. Don't remember much of it. My sister was born in New Jersey. So we did a whole migration from all across the nation before landing and planting our flag in California. And I think most of my development in my childhood years was Westminster, of course. All the Vietnamese are from there. But then Huntington Beach was probably my core amount of growing up years.
That's for the hairstyle.
Yeah, grade school. And then Huntington Beach, which was a surfing school, basically, which was a school next to the beach. And then I went on to meet Larry at the college, eventually at Game Art and Design. I'm 33 years old. So I didn't have the traditional college experience like you had at Penn State.
I had a couple years of it.
You had a couple years of that, which I can't say I regret, obviously, because I met you, I met my wife, I met all my good friends over at our institute. But both you and my wife had that college experience because my wife is older than me, around the same age as Larry. And so they had that experience that I never had because in art school, I was still staying at home. I stayed. There was no reason for me to leave, right? Or stay in a dormitory because it was 15 minutes away from my house. So I've always just drove to school and maintained that until I got married and everything. And so that's pretty much how it began. And we, of course, went into game development. We have 12 plus years in the game industry. Yeah. We worked on big titles like BioShock, Call of Duty, Lost Planet, and a bunch of other titles. And now, where we are right now, we finally went full time to do these shows, but also work on our own game and kind of be entrepreneurs. And it's kind of weird to kind of, like, I'm starting to get used to saying I'm an entrepreneur, but I am, right? Because it's much easier than saying, oh, I got a few things I'm doing, startups. But that's the definition of what an entrepreneur is.
And I'll say this about anybody who is an entrepreneur for their own thing, right? Yeah. Especially one that is intangible like ours is. Like, oh, you do a podcast, a game show. We are creating digital products. I can't put that in your hand.
Right.
So oftentimes you would think people in our position, when they say you're an entrepreneur, they're like, oh, so you're doing something until you get a job.
Yeah.
Right? Like people want to do with that.
You get that look,
Like, no, it's if you can confidently look them in the eye and just like, well, no, I'm an entrepreneur. I've created revenue streams in digital media entertainment with this podcast, with Game School Online. And now we've added a third product. We're working on our own game. Yeah. Just in how you say something could completely kill that.
It's something I'm getting used to because now people are asking you, where do you work? It's like, oh, I'm working for myself. I'm starting to finally thinking about how I should present myself because that never been a case. Oh, I just work at this company here and there. And that's the end of the conversation. And before, in the beginning of career, if I worked on games that no one heard about, it's even a long conversation. And then finally we work on big projects and a shorter conversation, obviously. Oh, I know that game. My kid plays that game. Call of Duty. Yeah, sure.
You don't even have to talk if it's a big enough game.
Exactly. Now it's kind of like a blend between the two. It's like, I had a history. I worked on these games. But I'm doing my own thing. It's like, what is it? Oh, I'm doing this and that, this and that. It's like, oh, this sounds very interesting. And then they walk off. But, I mean, the obviously, the benefits that we've been doing this last 3 weeks and what I'm seeing with it is the commitment. Like we've been doing these shows every morning, and I'm definitely seeing the progress in terms of response and participation from our customers and consumers. And aside from that, the quality of life happiness is incomparable.
Yeah. Dude,
from what I had before.
You see your family every day.
I am with my family all the time.
Yeah.
I know you're seeing this fancy studio. It's actually in my office at home. I'm wearing no shoes, no socks, because I can.
You only see us from here up, right?
Exactly.
Like the table
Sometimes
up.
I do no pants. Yeah. Guess which episode?
The ones where Larry's looking at the ceiling.
Yeah, pretty much. Larry's constantly looking at the camera. Yeah. So it's been an eventful and less scary step when I finally did it, because obviously I had a really stable job, a really good job before, and but I've always been building up to this moment. But even when I was ready to kind of jump off the cliff and do this full time, there was not trepidation, but definitely a lot of fear, right? And I would love to, this show gives us the opportunity to talk more in depth about these type of life situations. I would love to talk to a psychologist about fear, or a business entrepreneur about fear, and jumping full in and building up things responsibly. Yeah. Like these are the type of guests, of course, that Invisible Walls will allow us to do, where our game-centric shows, other podcasts can't, right? Yeah. And this gives us that opportunity to kind of reach out to experts in all industries that I feel are topics that can span across everything, and be able to kind of open up our network.
And it's also worth noting that some of these topics we are going to revisit because the perspective on it may change.
It's always different.
Or the person delivering their thoughts on it may have different values or a different approach.
Yeah.
Even if it's like fear for starting a business as a mom, single mom, fear for starting a business as a person who's maybe 50, 60 years old, really having, I don't want to say being in the early twilight of their life where they're like, how much time am I really going to be able to put into something? Where's my health? Where are my finances? And if I get this wrong, what is my life going to be like?
It is true.
It's a different story when you're 20 and you're like, oh, I started a business, it didn't work.
It is a huge story. And I'm going to constantly talk about my wife and be personal with it. And she's never going to watch this, so it's fine.
If a shoe comes
she made it very clear she's not going to watch this.
It's proof that we're home.
But she's in a situation, we've always had, I've been fortunate enough to be the breadwinner of my family, but also afford the ability to not have my wife to work. It's not like a choice, but it is very traditional, right? Not a lot of families, I've realized going throughout my career, that we've had that opportunity where both parents, or one of the parents has to work, one can be at home. Because that's how I was raised. My mom was mostly with the kids. And so
hard to do that.
It's very hard to do nowadays.
Holy shit. With kids too?
Oh, yeah. Especially when we were in Silicon Valley in San Francisco. Very rare. Dude, I was like a diamond in the rust. Right, but families were, and I'm sure you're watching or listening to this. It's very common for both parents to work and have nannies or daycare to kind of take care of the kids. I just made a very conscious choice, even in the beginning before kids, and I sat down with my wife. It's like, I'm not opposed to you working or not. But I see in the long term, it'd be great if one of us can be home. And I'm not even telling her that she has to be the one. Like, I would love. Oh my God. Dream come true.
How did you say that? It'd be great if one of us could stay home.
Exactly. I would love. Oh my God. But she would totally lose respect for me because she is traditional in that mind frame. And we don't want to get into gender warfare or anything, but let's be honest, man. Like, if you're. This is getting into another topic.
It's okay.
But I'm going to be honest.
Let's roll with it.
At least within my family, she would lose respect for me if I was the one at home and she was the one to go to work.
I would say
there's a certain level of taking down a peg.
I don't know your wife as well as you do, obviously. But I know her well enough to think that you would at least have some buffer.
Yes.
She loves you enough that she knows the type of person you are. She knows you love her. She knows you love the family. So let's say you tried something and it didn't work.
Yeah.
Right? And she was like, all right, Brandon, like I can do this for like 2-3 months to help you do your next thing.
Yeah.
like her expectation is,
Get
no,
back to
you're
work.
not staying home for good. Like, this is, you're getting your ducks in order, and then you're getting your ass back out there.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
believe like she'll at least give you those 2-3
It's
months.
a buffer. It's
you
not a
gotta
long
buffer
term
it,
deal.
yeah.
Yeah,
You don't
it's a
have
2-week deal.
You don't have a role reversal. I don't believe that she put up with you like,
Yeah.
hey babe, why don't you go get a job and let me try it for a while? Let's just see.
I know how she is. And it,
ain't
again,
gonna
it's a
happen.
person to person type really because I was playing basketball, right?
Yeah,
I told
yeah.
you about like this guy that everybody was just letting him pass.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten in the way and tried to block, and because he was so tall, he just lifted up his leg and kneed me in the ribs, and I'm still recovering from it. And so when I get off of bed, I'm like aching and pain, and she's like, "Oh my god, I'm so unattracted to you right now." It's like, oh my god, this is a sport injury.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not like I'm aching
Yeah, it's
from
not
sleeping
old age.
wrong. Yeah, it's like get yourself together. So I know where I am and where I stand with my particular relationship. But these are things. But she talked about openly about being at home all the time. It's very hard to. If kids are your focus, to have side hobbies as a housewife and to feel like you have a purpose, because with our job and the things that we're doing on the side, I can constantly look at my schedule and be like, oh, these are things that I want to project 5 years down the line and get better at. It's very hard to do that. Of course, you get the benefits of the kids growing, but how there needs to be some kind of selfish gain to you as a person that you're constantly building up skills. And for me, the last 10, 12 years has been a lot about that. Like, more important than being comfortable. Like, the drive for me as a person and as anybody that's trying to do something with their life and make a mark is all skill-based. It's like, can I get better at something? And it's something I didn't learn when I was a student. I think I was a terrible student. I get by with the Asian skills, Asian F is like, the average C or B, right? So like I was like okay in school, but I've always had that wandering mind and interest. Excel in sports, of course. Look at this. And then, but when it comes to educational stuff, I didn't get it. No one sat down and explained to me why was it important to learn 8 different categories at the same time.
Well, Brandon, when was the last time you had to pull out the old y equals mx plus b?
Exactly. And that's where I feel like this traditional school system fails. Aside from the obvious benefits of the social aspect of it with other students and making friends on the play yard, but when it comes to actual studying and stuff, at least in America, I feel like we're at a disadvantage because of not being able to a la carte and focus on the topics that you want to concentrate on. Because, I'm fine with the exposure at the beginning to find out like what you like and lean towards. But at a certain point, it's not whittling down in high school. Like, hey, these are the 3 things that you're really into: history, English, right? And maybe math, right? That would be more beneficial
for you. That's
yeah. Wow, of course.
That's a given.
That's a given. You need English, bro. But of course, these things, I think, if I had my high school experience being focused onto subjects that I really liked, I would have appreciated that time, but also it would have set me off in a better path. Like I'm more interested in learning these subjects, like social studies, right? Now than ever before, because I have the freedom to be okay to take my time.
You're saying something really interesting, actually, and I struggled a lot in school with very
I don't
similar.
believe it.
No,
I don't believe it.
I have a very similar.
This guy
experience.
has like a factual mind. If you guys aren't aware, this guy can remember everything when it comes to facts.
So, but the difference being is where I struggle is like ADD, ADHD, and so I had a very similar experience in. If my engagement into something based on my interest was super high, it was usually art, music, sports, like obviously gym class, doing great. Did well with writing because writing was also expression of creativity. So when English classes had me do writing, perfect. When they had me do reading and then tell you what I read, shit. Absolute shit.
Yeah.
Just I was when you said, this is my book report by Brandon Pham. That is BRAND, like to fill out the time. Same kind of book reports coming out of me, but you couldn't touch me in art. You couldn't touch me in music, and I was the gym class hero.
Yeah.
I always excelled in areas where I was engaged because
Yeah.
I put my time and attention, and I didn't feel like I had to fight my own self
Yeah.
to like force myself to pay attention because I was locked in.
Right.
And the hard parts were every other class, if I felt like I didn't give a shit or like I didn't see the application to my specific goals that I wanted for myself, D's.
Yes.
Like I barely passing because I didn't care.
Yes.
And I feel bad, but like if I was in a program that was like, hey, you know what? Look, Larry, you're probably not going to, do a job that requires calculus.
Yeah.
Ha ha ha, look where I end up being a game developer.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like that's an honest conversation I would have loved to have, which was like, Larry, your interests line up here.
Yeah.
And we think that if we can find a way to continue or push your education through arts or practical sciences, you could probably be excellent and do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
But if it's a public school, hey, here's our core curriculum, our core expectancy, and you have to pass all of this stuff to then just be a mediocre person, and we're going to just try to push you through.
Yeah.
There's a lot of kids that are, I would say, similar, who will be on the same wavelength as me. It was like, man, this person really excels in music or acting and theater. Let's take a gamble. Let's make sure that they have life skill classes, right? Like personal finance, so they know about how to manage their money, about loans, about interest rates and things like that. Give them some hand skill jobs as well. I think everybody should have some sort of practical knowledge. And then let them double down on the thing that they love. Because you can always go to... You don't need a diploma to have a $13 or $14 an hour job, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't want to say that you can live off of these salaries, but what I mean is there's at least some bottom level safety net of education. Forget it. You can just be a person who comes here and is waves at people as they come in the restaurant, right? You can provide an income for yourself. You may not be able to have your own house, but you can find roommates. Like there's still possibilities.
Yeah.
Let people take a risk. Let people like push towards the things that they love and see how it works, because it might be so much better off than trying to tell this person that their best bet is to just, I don't know, like go be a security guard off. Like you wouldn't want to tell that to a high schooler.
Of course.
You don't want to stop someone's dream at 17 years old. That's when they have the best chance to strike and get it wrong and not be in a position where their life is like completely ruined.
Definitely.
If I was 20 and I chased my dream for 3 years and it didn't work out, I'm 20.
Yes.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. I would even go way earlier than that, especially with having kids now. I want my sons to both be at the age of 12 and start kind of honing in what they like. Yeah. And I think that's where, when I look back at my educational experience in those years where, the benefit of my parents or my mom leaving me alone, and I had pretty much all types of freedom to hang out with my friends. And that's where I really developed. I also see the failures now being a parent. It's like, man, my mom failed me so hard. Because this is where I feel like the parent steps in when the school system is the way it is. The school system isn't going to change. They're going to continuously try to pump out generalists or okay at everything but master of none type of mentality, unless they're going to private schools. And this is where I feel, I feel like private schools and people in richer neighborhoods have an advantage because their parents know all these things and they have generations of this type of passing on the knowledge of this is how you give yourself a better chance and a better boost in life, just out of the gate, right? And so this is where I feel like, yes, my mom failed me. I'm not saying she's a terrible mom, but she failed me in this sense where she wasn't able to kind of like tell me, hey, you don't need to focus on all this shit, right? Let's figure out what you want to do. But the thing that she did allow me to do that I felt like I was at a better advantage than most kids is that she fully supported in all my interests. I wanted to be I like band. Like I was in the band program during middle school.
I didn't know, what instruments do you play?
I played trumpet.
Okay.
I played trumpet. Oh, okay. But I ended up playing all types of instruments.
Yeah.
That's where I learned to play the bass. I played the flute. All right, you can laugh at that.
No, I'm not.
But I also.
This is new. I didn't know.
This is new, right? You're learning a lot from it. I know how to play the saxophone during those years. Because once you learn one instrument, you're able to learn others very easily, and you pick it up really fast. And I pretty much started touching all the instruments by the time I was in 9th grade. I didn't do band in high school because I know the social dynamics at that point. Band in middle school is cute.
You started seeing boobs.
Like,
oh man.
Well, I
like these.
Exactly. But I did martial arts as a kid because I was interested in it, and that shaped a lot of my discipline and physical fitness. But she allowed me to test and experiment a lot of things that I want to pass on to my children. As long this is my advice, as soon as what I see is like there's interest shown in your kids, or if you're a mentor or whatever, let them try it, because that's when they can finally have this big net and hone it in. Because of course, the smaller the net, the tighter the cone, sure, but like the less opportunities they have to actually figure out what they're good at. And that's what I'm seeing, at least when you're raising your children, that I kind of had, but I think I could have had more, obviously, at least on the educational front, right? Everything was leaning towards creative, but when it comes to educational, I was never going to be a lawyer or a doctor. And I don't think it's based merely on interest, but mostly because I wasn't surrounded by doctors. I didn't know that life. I didn't know how much they made. I mean, I think if I had a session about like, honestly, I feel like every 12-year-old should sit in a session and look at like a salary chart and all right, hey, this is what they do, and this is how much they make in terms of all fields. How much do you want to make? Tell me when to stop when I'm like scanning my finger around. But I think that would have made an impact on me, on my decision, if I had known. I just lucked out with game development, making a good chunk of money for what we do, and had a fruitful career. But if I wanted to do music, holy crap, and didn't know how little people make and how most people don't make it to the famous level, I would have yelled at my mom. Why do you make me do this?
Oh man!
Why do you make me do this?
I want to jump in and say this though. Like, I at least appreciate the fact that you had an environment where you could explore.
Yes.
Regardless of how you felt like her stepping in or not, you at least had somewhat of a bubble.
Yes.
So like, I tried saxophone. I heard you say I tried flute. I tried. What was the other instrument?
Saxophone, trombone. I played pretty much everything.
So like, a lot of people just don't have that experience whatsoever. So like, I give that credit as to like, hey, you had an opportunity to like try to find yourself. In 2019, and I don't want to date our podcast. Like, if you're listening to this 20 years from now, like, oh, this is old shit.
Still relevant.
Where I feel like the world is right now is having the thing that you love can be a career now more than ever.
Yeah.
Right. If you have the discipline to really work at something and you can share that.
Yeah.
And people for free can just partake and support you through watching or viewing your content, that becomes a revenue stream.
Yeah.
I watched a kid open toys with like 4 or 5, 6, 8 million subscribers, knowing that kid is making bank and just opening toys all day. And I'm not saying, oh, you just open toys all day. No, I'm saying like, he's opening that kid probably loves opening toys and playing with these toys, and he already has a career, probably already has a retirement account, is already set for life, because for 2 to 3 years, a kid and his parent decided that they wanted to share this experience together, create content, and put it online. Those stories can still exist in so many other ways. Now, bringing it down to a little more practical level, I've always appreciated like vocational schools and things like that, because one, I understand how the world works. Everyone can't be the lawyer. Everyone can't be the doctor. You do need trashmen. You do need plumbers. You do need artists. You do need musicians. You do need farmers. You do need baggers at the grocery store. You need stock boy. Like, all these jobs exist. But like, I remember earlier on in my life, like, a lot of people kind of looked down on people who went to like this place called Votech, where I was, in certain ways. And I was like, man, you act like you're never going to need your car oil changed at some point. Dude, and you think that they're going to make 30 grand. Like, no way, man. A mechanic makes bank, especially like they're by themselves. They start at a young age. You can be like a full-time mechanic, like 18 years old, already making way more and having way less student loans than other people are responsible for. You'd be surprised. Like, the blue collar is like, it's good, honest work, and it provides housing. It provides for kids.
Work.
It provides like, man, it's, I completely changed how I felt, because I didn't look down on it myself, but like, I just always felt bad. I felt like, you're like, exactly. I wasn't looking down. It was like more of a like, oh man, you got to go and go to that place. But as an adult, I was like, no way, man. Like, I wish there was like games Votech for me. I would have been there. I would have been there, hands down. Probably 10 more steps ahead of where I am right now.
I lean heavily in the digital side of the industries, but like now I'm starting to really appreciate, like you said, the hands-on. Like I'm very useless around the house. Like everything that's built around is by my wife. Her father owns a auto center. He's a mechanic. He owns his own business. So he had $3. So of course, she being the oldest, a lot of those skills were kind of passed on to her, and it shows. And I never really grew up with that. And it's only lately that I've been really interested in it because it seems very practical as a homeowner and anybody that's looking to go and own like multiple houses as an investment later in my life. It's great that you know that stuff, and know at least a little that when you're hiring contractors, what the fuck they're doing. Because constantly you're going through a process to find the right one. And it's good to not be kind of cheated. And so those skills, like you said, I wish schools were more leaning towards that. Outside of maybe language, which is English in America, math, and maybe science as the third important. Everything else should be all practical skills. I wish there were more business classes during my high school to tell you about how to be an entrepreneur, what is about gaining customers, keeping customers, and delivering to customers, the important factors of running a business.
Dude,
never once anybody told me about that. You're talking to me about what, Paul Revere?
Yeah,
it's like, who cares about that guy?
I feel like our school system is set up right now to feed corporate America, but corporate America jobs aren't like they used to be. You're not looking at people who work 40, 50 years, get the gold watch, the turkey, and the pension check. Those days are over.
People have to be innovative now.
Yeah, it's like having practical skills is super important. I wish that slowly schools would start to roll in more of that in the curriculum. At least teach people about personal finance.
Yes.
Like really show them about personal finance, about not just like, oh, this is a 3-week class. Here's how to balance a checkbook. Like those days are over. I haven't balanced a checkbook in forever. My app does that.
Yeah.
But did I learn about cryptocurrency? Did I learn about saving? Did I learn about investing? Did I learn about ways that I can leverage my income to grow?
Yeah.
Did I learn about ways that I can use my income to fuel dreams or to provide for my family or my pseudo family, things like that? Learning, that take care of a baby egg thing that they used to do back in the day.
Right.
Like make the kid plan and buy the groceries for the household. That could be a report.
Yeah.
Like being able to look and say like, hey, I have to feed my mom, my dad, myself, my brother, and my sister.
Yeah.
Encourage the parents to get involved and actually let them buy the groceries the next time. Give them the money to do so.
Yeah.
That's an experience that people need sooner than later.
Yes. I would say my education didn't start until we started doing our own thing when I was like 25. When I looked at corporations, like companies we worked at, and knew that this wasn't a long-term thing. Like there was no way that I can stick to this until I was 65.
Yeah.
Based on how the industry was, my industry, our industry, but also my personal interest wasn't there enough to stick it out until 65. And so what's the term now? Being woke? Yeah. I was woke, where I was finally self-educating. Because, I wasn't heavily into reading. In high school, you read all the classic. I actually love reading classical books. I think a lot of my creative endeavors stem from reading those classic books with Monte Cristo and all that stuff. But there was a period where I was just focusing on game development, right? And it wasn't until recently when I started reading more business books and reaching out and networking. And so we have our other podcast, Game Dev Chain. We talked about how Invisible Walls is broadening about that. We've done 195 episodes within just game development, talking to people about various things and even talking about the same subjects from a different perspective. Yeah. Imagine what we can do with outside of game development, which is what I'm very excited about with Invisible Walls.
If I look at Invisible Walls 5 years from now, if we achieve success that I have in my head, I see a dream life scenario, right? I give myself an opportunity to dissect and explore somebody better than me in a period or a field that I'm very interested in for personal growth and development. I then get to satisfy my share needs and help needs by helping other people in the world achieve themselves, right? Like, oh wow, you guys did a great talk with this person who is like investing in cryptocurrency. They really demystified it, and now I understand it a little better. Thank you so much. This is really cool. And like, wow, 8 episodes later, you talked about how that episode actually helped you do something, or like how you made money, or you fixed a mistake. So not only am I getting the practical knowledge, but I'm seeing like use cases. Thank you, Invisible Walls. This is great. I love what you guys do.
Yes. Like, I am 33 years old, and I lived my 20s as pretty much a 30-year-old. You know, I've married really young. I had kids really young. So people my age who are still single, and
I'm not single.
Not
I got
single.
a girlfriend.
Single as in not
I'm
married.
not married.
Okay.
I'm not married.
If you're not married, you're single, bud. Okay. But like at my age, a lot of my friends or colleagues or peers have done a shitload of traveling, which is what I'm really jealous about. Traveling, I feel it's in my blood, but I've never done it enough. I love the idea of getting on a plane and going somewhere and living how others lived, right? And it's not to escape my own skin, but it's more like experiencing new things. And I feel like that's the first step of experiencing new things, just going somewhere and just experiencing culture. And it's something I'm really lacking in my own life because of, obviously, I have a lot of baggage, family, that I have to worry about. It's not just a trip for one. It's a trip for 4 people. So 4 times the amount.
Yeah, and Yuto's getting to the age
the practicality
he's
gets
not
crazy.
getting the free for much longer, right? Like,
so I want to bring on travel experts to like, how do you do it? Because I've heard and read many times before that you can do it on a budget. You don't need much to travel. You just got to do it and commit to it. And those are the type of things and subjects I want to improve my own life, because I don't want to be those 6-year-olds with a camera that finally saved enough and put time to find. I'm be so old to move around and do the activities I want to do on these excursions, right? So I'm trying, I want to use Invisible Walls as a way to kind of figure this out by myself. But like, I'm already, we're doing a lot of these shows, and we're like 3-4 weeks in, and like now that I have more time, I'm telling my wife Akia, I was like, I need to start reading more books, because we're gonna run out of. I don't want to be the same person talking about the same opinions, right? It's gonna get really stale and old. I want to constantly push myself and bring up subjects and opinions and perspective points that I didn't have weeks ago. So we went to the library yesterday. But this is the exciting part about learning that wasn't organic in my younger years. It was very forced, and it was very militarized. Like, you got to do this because you got to do that, but never explained and sat down like, this is why it benefits you. And it's only till now, recently, where I'm self-educating, where I'm finally realizing the benefits of books of all places.
I got a challenge for you, because I never was a book nut until I realized that books were going to help me educate myself in areas that I care about.
Right.
So I have maybe one fiction book.
Yeah. Oh, that
in
you
my
ever
collection.
read?
No, like I have one. Like right now, I have like one book that's like a story.
Okay.
It's because it's autographed by one of my favorite childhood authors.
Okay.
Every other book is how to achieve this, how to do that, how to do this, how this person did that, biography. Every single thing is like showing me like a dissection of something. So here's my challenge for you, and you can do this on Invisible Walls now. I'm saying it live. We have to do it.
We got to do it.
Can you at least read one book a month?
I'm trying to do one book a week.
That's fine. Okay. Can you at least do one book a month? Okay, so here's what we're going to do.
We're going to do a book review.
You and I both have to at least do one book a month.
Okay.
But the goal is, I want to read books so that I can recommend one to you.
Oh, I see.
You read books to recommend one to me.
I'm going to pitch it to you.
And then, exactly. So then, as we go through this podcast, that'll be like a subtle beat arc.
On too.
Exactly. So whatever the topic that you're like, you read 4 books in a month, cool. So which one do you think that would be great for me to read that I might not know about? And we'll bring that to this as well.
I want to do that for myself, because I feel more than ever books are like the easiest answer to all your problems. You don't need to get a therapist. Well, maybe you do, but you don't need to get mentors. Maybe you do, but like the books is the first step to doing that, and it's available and free, right? You go to your local library, which I did yesterday, and I was like, this is a lot of books. If I sat down and start reading from this day to the day I die, I'll only get to one letter section, right? And it's a waste. A lot of people out there, it's a medium that I think is available to everybody, but only the educated, well, the really educated and the rich take advantage of, in my opinion, right? I feel now with media being so readily available and you're watching the show, maybe we'll put subtitles on for these so you can start reading somehow, some way.
Ease you into
it. But it's such a wasted opportunity, because everything you can possibly learn from any subject to even martial arts. Bruce Lee, this is how he did in the old days. He didn't have YouTube to look at moves. He was reading books and got to where he was.
Scrolls and
yes,
papers.
But anybody successful read books. And so if you want to be successful in whatever part, right, it doesn't have to be monetary value. You got to read something and learn something. And I think in adult years, less and less people, especially in this age, is taking advantage of that. And we'll help you along with the show to kind of review, but really honestly wanting to bring those authors on, and it'd be awesome to talk to them directly about these type of techniques.
And anybody who's scared of a book being out of date, I promise you, stuff that's worth learning holds up.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Plus, let's be real, I can go to a blog and get somebody's just blurted out opinion on something.
Yes.
Great. But to really have somebody who sat down and wrote an outline in a manuscript and a whole plan for
there is a more rigorous process to get your book published. Even the shitty books went through a process, and that's the most important part, being vetted and being challenged and being pushed, those authors being pushed to kind of publish these books. These blogs, you don't get that type of treatment, right? You read Kotaku like we did in our last show, Games Recap, check it out. But these are all opinionated, and more blogs or news article are opinion pieces. And I hate those, dude. I have my Google's app where you're in the front page, it shows me all my interests. I've gotten into the habit the last, 6 months. Pretty much anything political, I block. As in, don't show me this news, because I don't like looking at that. And then anything that when I start reading and it starts off with an opinion of the journal, I block. And so you know what's on my feed now?
The cream of the crop?
No, it's just fucking sports. I banned everything else, and there's nothing else but sports
the
that
only
I
thing
can.
completely based on
who
fact
won
is sports.
Who put in harder work than the other team, and that's the result. It's it's clear cut as. Of course, there's some opinions who's going to get traded and stuff. That's fine. I want your opinion on that, but I like more factual things now, and it doesn't get more factual. I'm not saying all nonfiction books are factual, right? But at least it's gone through a process where it has a popular enough opinion to get published. Yeah. And I'm very excited, because the time. Let's talk about this aspect.
Sure.
The time that you got back, when you don't have to clock in, clock out anymore.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that, man.
Yeah, I have.
When did you first realize?
Well, I think what's great about the situation right now is you still get a lot of work done, but when and how you have more freedom, right?
So much control and freedom.
Hey, you know what? I want to go to the gym now versus at 2 a.m, when I normally go.
Yeah.
So I go to the gym from 12 to 1:30.
Yeah.
Then I have the whole rest of my day to shower, then unwind and just focus on doing game development or catching up on something that I was supposed to be working on. So being able to shift and not have to check with a boss, you know what I mean?
It's been
your
best.
Kid needs you to go get him picked up real quick.
I guess I can.
You just tell Akil, hey, I'll be back. I'm going to get Bruce. You know what I mean?
The impact of being a parent and just being able to be there. Of course, if you don't know my story, I spent the last year and a half basically being in Orange County, and then having to fly every weekend. Every week to San Francisco, and then every weekend back to Orange County, just to, in my mind, to kind of check out that place, but also in the back of my mind, kind of building up to this moment where I can be at home full time. But that was a tough year and a half, because those are years that I'll never make up in my children's life. I don't know what kind of long-term damage I did. We'll find out. But
it's still early, man.
Still early. Yeah, but that's a year and a half that I missed out, that I'll never get back. And I'll always regret, no matter how successful this becomes or whatever. But being able to at least make up for that by being here and available and being a dad and a parent, it really just crystallizes the importance of what life is about. It's family, friends, and building up something that you can call your own, but you have full control over whether it's successful or failure, right?
Well, I can offer you at least one little piece of back pat for you. Your kids are still very young, and I'm not saying that as like, oh, they'll be fine, but more so think about it like this. If you look at the two lines, right, the alternate universe thing, as soon as you make a new decision, the two parallels, right? If you stayed on the old path, you were working in an industry that you were getting lots of experience, but you were also high up on a totem pole, responsible for people. You didn't spend a lot of time, good quality time at home anyway, right? Especially once crunch kicked in or things needed to be delivered or X, Y, and Z.
Yes. Or constantly moving.
Exactly, constantly moving. So imagine the long term of that life experience versus now, okay, Ikea did put up for the family for a year and a half while you were up there, and then you come back on the weekends. That really sucked.
Yeah.
But now look at the parallel of everything that you do get to bring to the table
so
from
much
here
better
on.
now, yeah.
Exactly. Compare that
now.
rest of your life to the previous rest of your life had you not moved.
Yes. And that's a case where I go back to 31-year-old Brandon and be able to be like,
calm him down. It's
like
okay.
before I took that decision, because I think you guys finding us on Invisible Walls is actually a good step forward to kind of project ways to improve yourself, because I feel like a lot of people now is in Tesla mode, autopilot mode. I coined that word. Where they are just moving along, doing their in and out at work, and then life doesn't start until after 6 p.m., which is, to be honest, our life for a long time.
It was.
And this is the first time in my life where I was able to compare outside of the bubble, be like, wow, there's so much stuff that I want to do, where the day, the most surprising thing out of all this is the day just goes by so fast, where for the first time, I'm like, maybe I should crunch to get the stuff done, because the stuff that I want to do compared to the amount of hours in a day is not enough. And so this is where I feel the discrepancy between an employer and employee happens, because the exec has a lot more at stake, and where every minute kind of build up their empire, where the employee just feels like I'm working for another person. Therefore, my valuable time is outside the office. Yeah. And so I'm wasting time by being here. But now that we're a business owner, it's not like we employ anybody, but me as a personal, trying to achieve my goals, I can see why wanting to put the extra time to achieve my goals faster doesn't feel like a waste. So what do you call it? The substance, what do you call it? Not substance, but the investment. The investment is a lot heavier now that we're doing our own thing, where I'm starting to see the time just slip by so fast by just doing biz dev stuff. And it's awesome to kind of have that issue, because now you're having so much fun that you wish you had more time to have fun, right?
Sure, yeah.
And it's the first time in my career, let's say 12 plus years in the business, that I felt this way. Yeah. And it's a secret that I think a lot of entrepreneurs or rich people, to be honest, knew at the very beginning. Yeah. And that's why if someone started, like you said, a trajectory, a 20-year-old Brandon versus rich 20-year-old Brandon, or at least had a good guidance 20-year-old Brandon, by 33 years old, that person would have had an empire at my age and be way better off in control of their life. Yep. And I'm just starting that path right now.
And to anybody listening to this right now who may feel like they're kind of in a rat race mode, what I can tell you is this: let go of anything that you feel like you may have missed out on in the past. Don't let that necessarily mean forget about it, as in don't try to take advantage of it if the opportunity comes again. Like, do learn the lessons, like look out for the indicators, but don't get hung up on like, oh man, I wish I started this 20 years ago, so I'm not going to do it now because I feel like I'm 20 years too late.
Yes.
That's the most stuck mindset that I encounter.
Dude, that's 99% of people, man.
Exactly.
Like when we talk to people doing this on their own, and they're like, oh, I wish I could do that. And when I tell them, like, well, think about 5 years down the line, if you start today, wouldn't it be in your best interest to start now? But like, it's 99% people get stuck with the ideas like 5 years. I got to do this for 5 years and then have something fruitful. Or
you can do nothing for 5 years and still have the same conversation.
Exactly. The time passes. 5 years is going to pass anyways.
Yep.
So you don't put in the time now, you're going to be in the same place as before. It's the investment part, and it's the idea of not seeing the fruits of your labor till later. And in this age, this is why I'm so excited when we're doing our own thing, is because I personally feel the competition in our age or in our generation is so much lower than before, where people are in this mode of instant gratification that they just give up competing in the long term. That makes it easier for us. Like that
Sweet.
wall, that barrier is lower for us, where as long as we get through the trenches, we'll be it'll be our field and industry to
Wide
dominate.
open.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to that. I think that Invisible Walls has a great growth trajectory potential.
Yeah.
I look forward to my own just personal development as I prepare for research topics or the relationships and connections that we make.
Yeah.
I think it's only going to be a good thing. But again, if 5 years from now I look back and I was like, man, Invisible Walls, so glad I started it. Like, that's a win.
Yeah.
And to all those people who have the mindset of like, oh my God, 5 years from now, like I'm struggling today and like who knows what I'm going to be. Like, the best case scenario that I can have to help you fend that off is, I've said this before, I've always wanted to earn a black belt in the martial arts.
Yes.
Right? Taekwondo primarily was the one I was most excited about, but like I tried Taekwondo, karate, all that stuff. But every time I really put thought into it, I had reasons why I wasn't doing it at that moment. I was like, man, all the studios, like they start closing at 7. I don't even leave Sledgehammer till 8.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or like, oh, I'm going to have to drive, or I'm going to have to do this, and I don't have the money, or I don't have, like, I had legitimate reasons. And then I always said, but it's also going to take like 3, 4, 5 years, depending on the system, 6, 7, you know, oh my God, I'm going to be 50 trying to earn a black belt as a white belt. And like, I always had these, but like we said, all that I had done over the 10 years of me thinking that way was get older.
Yeah, exactly. I have a black belt actually. It's I don't know if that was a segue to myself, but I started my son on wushu finally, and when he's in the trial period and we're using that to the fullest before we have to pay, and so he asked me, I asked him, "What do you think?" So
that's a good test, though, right? Like, hey, son, do the whole free week before I spend the money.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so he's liking it. And the first thing he mentioned is like, when I asked him what you want to do with this, is like, I want to earn a black belt. Because it is, and it's like, how long does that take? And I painted him the picture because I'd gone through that process with Kung Fu as a young age. I started when I was 7. I did it religiously, 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, until I was 12, and then started teetering off into kickboxing when I was 14, 15, doing kickboxing, or wushu and then kickboxing afterwards, right? It took me 4 years to earn a black belt, going through the ranking system with that type of determination. Yeah. I think on a regular, all the regular average people that took 2 to 3 classes a week, it would have taken them 6 to 7 years. So I sped through that. And the things that I've learned through that, I applied to everything else. The consistency, the quality. Like, I remember my first time, dude, when I was praised, like being acknowledged. I think that's the Naruto. That's the Naruto basis story, right? Being acknowledged and then achieving success, right? And I think a lot of people don't have that opportunity to be acknowledged at first place. This is where I feel sports do a better job than the educational system. Saying that, you worked hard. This is why you're better than everybody else. Yeah. You are number one. I feel like in our culture nowadays, PC culture, everyone's kind of really stepping away from calling number 1, number 2, number 3. And it is soft, and I don't know what the long-term effects of that is. I can guess. I have my feelings on that.
I would say low ambition.
Low ambition and despising the best. Like the attitude, instead of being competitive with the best, it's kind of like shitting on the best and kind of bringing that down, right? That's another topic. That's another show. But my personal acknowledgement happened when I was around 10 years old, right? I was a red belt at that time, which is a belt before black.
Right before black. And
my school that I went to was like a branch school of the main school. And the Grand Sifu had like 3 or 4 of these. He was rich, man. The martial art business can be very fruitful if you're successful, man. Yeah. because these studios would have like hundreds of students, right? And so he's smart as a businessman. He would once a year for the belt test go to his studio, and to not only take the test, you have to pay to take the test to earn your ranking. It's, I don't know, $50 a person a head for 2 hours test, and you go up there for 15, 20 minutes in front of the Grand Seafood. They make it a whole thing. Hundreds of students from all corners. I was like, man, that's a lot of money. As a 9-year-old, I realized this, right? So I was around 9, 10, and we would do our forms, right? Basically choreograph forms, go through the lessons, lectures. And at the end of this 2-hour thing, we were all sitting down, and this is when traditional martial arts school would preach about martial arts, what it means. And he would like walk around the room and was like, you know, as I'm standing here talking to you guys, it makes me very happy because I've been in this business for like 30 years and stuff. And when I see someone like Brandon or Tan at that time, right? And he's so young and he's so good, it really makes me really happy. And I was like, at that age, I was cocky. I was like, thank you, Sifu. But that was in front of hundreds of people, and I got to acknowledge.
So first you did this, but then you did the like over the shoulder look to check to see who.
But that was my taste of finally like putting in the hard work, being appreciated, and that projected me to always strive for number one in everything that I did. And so it's great to kind of see my son in that type of position. I don't know, it's genetics or whatever, but he's excelling in ways where he's put on the podium and having those opportunities to kind of feel the love and the admiration, right? And I, as a kid growing up, it's like addictive, right? Once you have a taste of what it's like to be at that level in excellence, you constantly strive for it, and you know that it's worth it. And I feel like a lot of people, unfortunately, don't get to that or don't get pushed enough to feel that, and affects all aspects of their life. And yeah, man, that's just a little personal story where I feel like anything that we do, anything that I want to achieve in, like I want to not, I don't want to be the best in charisma or anything, but I like these like kind of life hacks that we always mention about that apply in my life to kind of make me at least shine a little in a conversation, But I feel like that's applicable to anybody.
Dude, we are on this rock one time, and depending on your faith, maybe there's another shot, whatever. I'm not going to deal with that. While I'm Larry Charles in this body with this soul right now, I get that life and then when it's done, it's done. So while I'm here living it, what kind of life experience do I want? Do I want just rat race, help other people have yacht parties and champagne and like live off of my hard work? Or do I want that for myself? Maybe I don't want that, but do I at least want freedom? Do I want prosperity, happiness? Yes, 100,000%. I want good health. I want friends. I want memories. I want love. Right? Like I don't want misery. I don't want tolerable misery between small moments of satisfaction. I want to do whatever I can possibly do to make sure that I have a gratifying, satisfying, healthy, and prosperous life.
And to me, we've always preached about what that could be. And we theorized that maybe having our time back to think about it on our own was the first, step. And I have to confirm that is really true. Like the time that I can wake up and then go to sleep, and every minute of that day was completely within my control. It took me 33 years of my life to finally feel that. And for most people, they never feel that until retirement.
It's the 60s.
Isn't that crazy?
Even now,
And I'm not hating anyone at their desk job right now that actually enjoy it. But for me, I've always had that. I always had that fight in me where, I never really had like a real job before I went in the industry. So maybe that's part of like the training I never had to kind of take it. But I always had a problem with authority, man. Like, you telling me what to do, even though you're more qualified than I am. Like, I couldn't take it. I don't know what it was.
I'm the artist here, right? Like I'm the one who can actually do it.
Well, at Quiznos, like the only small job that I've had was at Quiznos, where I worked for a month, where I was until I was written off the schedule, which is, I think, a subtle way of firing me, right? But that month, like, what was it? My boss the guy would like, all right, so when you work here, every 4 hours and a half, you get half an inch of a sandwich or something. Something's like not even a foot long. It was like 4 inches, 4 to 6 inches of sandwich you can eat and you can take home. I was like, what? I've been making sandwiches all day? Foot long every time. Give me the foot long. And then we would have things at Quiznos, like you got to cut off the ends. I don't know what the reason was to make it look pretty. But our customers were like, why are you cutting off the ends? I don't know. They tell me to. And it's like, can I have the end? It's like, yeah, you can have the end.
Yeah.
Who cares the end? Yeah. But I've always had like that problem where you set rules. Yeah. If it didn't make sense to me. Because even my manager is like, just take the foot long. It's like, I'm taking the foot long. Yeah. So that's stupid. That's stupid. But like those are the type of instances. And again, I think it's just poor experience in the job. Servicing business, right? Where I never really had that too much, where I felt like I need to listen to you for anything but like for equal power. Sure. Like just treat me like yourself. You know, what you want me to do, I'll do it. But don't talk down on me. All right? I don't know. I've always had that attitude, which is bad. And I'm half and half. I was like, should my children think like that too? But
no, I look at it this way, man. There's different people in the world, different mindsets, and I think that an inquisitive, questioning, and mindset where you keep a backbone and you challenge, a lot of stuff moves and shakes, and what settles into place is usually like a truth, right? If you just go with the system because of the system, you don't necessarily know that that's the best way, the optimal way, or the right way. Right. That's just the way that you accept.
I guess, yeah.
So that's a great way to put it. There is great benefit to having that kind of mindset.
I guess it's a lot of it's control. Yeah, I mean, I do have that personality where if I don't have a handle on what my outcome is, I get very agitated. Sure. And so that's why in a workplace it's difficult. Imagine me in a workplace listening to you, telling me about all these bonuses and being life changing, and then you're telling me no way to get it. Then I instantly build a distrust. And what you're saying, you say A to B.
They're talking about their personal experience. Oh, it's life changing.
Well, that's what I'm learning about myself because I'm very forgetful when it comes to my memory. Any experience I have, it has to be through a rant or a tangent story that I remember. Okay. But whenever it gets brought up through family or friends about a story that involves me, I was like, oh, yeah. And then I start piecing it together. I've always had that problem.
Like linking memories.
Yeah. Well, linking memories, but like how I react in those stories where there's an authority figure and I said no. And then I caused a mob for a stupid PS2. But like that is just how I hate to say that's how I am because I hate things in absolute, because I think people who say that's how I am deal with it are internally very sad people because life is ever changing and it's about growth, right? And being stale is like being more equated to death than life. So it's the opposite of what you should be doing, right? And I never seen any guy or gal in a relationship saying, this is who I am, so you got to deal with it. In a successful relationship.
Sure. Yeah. That's a very selfish way to look at your own life and to look at your involvement in someone else's life. Anyway. Exactly. Like, I'm going to spend time with you. You're not going to have any sort of impression on me. You're not going to make me want to do more for nothing you can do. Yes. Is going to get me excited enough to care about myself enough to be a better person. Yes. Okay, Jesus.
I know, right? You're that perfect, right? Unless you're living in a cave by yourself for the rest of life. You can't be moving through life like that. And so that pretty much concludes our way of thinking of taking the show. This should have been the first episode, but we've had you since then.
Yeah, it's this show's gonna grow too.
Like, it's gonna grow. But
Game Dev Unchained, our podcast. You said 190 episodes in. We have a format and formula now that we've refined. You play episode 1 through 5. You can hear a lot of let's figure out how we want to interview, how we ask questions, who asks questions, what kind of there is growth.
Yeah, there's growth. And I'm super excited because what we did with the other shows, being able to do it with this show, but also adding other experts and have a platform for them. Yeah. I'm so excited to talk to these people and learn better ways to kind of live my life because that's what it's about, right? Quality of life.
And it is completely self-serving, but you get to be a fly on the wall. Yes. You know what I mean? And there's benefit there. When 10 millionaires get together and talk about how they all make money and do better. None of us are in that room.
Right.
They keep that knowledge to
You
themselves.
get a little richer by listening in.
Hey, maybe we can like crack that code and get one of us in there and then share the information that we learn. You know, we're going to help down.
Yeah. So. I want to hang out with millionaires.
I want to be one.
Well, you be one by hanging out with them. Yeah. So let me play the end music real quick.
I like that. I'm going to play the ending music, guys.
Queuing in our sound.
Listening to the smooth sounds of WIYJ, Invisible Walls. All
right. So, again, thank you for everyone. I am Brandon Pham. We're not going to reintroduce ourselves now that I introduced half of us. Larry Charles, of course, on the other side. This is Invisible Walls. Welcome to our new show about breakthroughs. If you want to watch us live, all right, you can go to our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/blue_champs at 11 a.m. every Monday and Wednesday to check us out and ask us questions while we're doing this. That'll be a great way. If you are listening to us, of course, you can find us on Spotify or anywhere that you listen to podcasts like Apple, iTunes, or whatever. If you want to watch these shows that you missed, you can go to our youtube.com/Blue Champs. Thank you, everybody.
All that. See you guys next week.